Hello zusammen, welcome to another edition of Feedback Freitag, or in this case, unfortunately, another edition of Feedback Montag. Apologies for getting this out late again. I was sick a bit last week and everything kind of got pushed back, and by the time it was Friday, trying to actually get through a Feedback Freitag without coughing was challenging, and I probably will cough for this one as well, so I apologize in advance. But nonetheless, your grading is up to date. All of the analyzers from last week are graded, the town controller is graded. So, and Sarah today is working on the floating side controlling, so we're almost all up to speed again. But nonetheless, it's still useful to think back to what we did last week and look at some of the common occurrences for us to remember and keep in mind as we continue practicing our German. So there are two this week that I wanted to focus on. The first goes back to something that I spoke about, I think in the second week, and kind of that idea of sentence order and what components of a sentence are necessary and in what order they go. And you likely know, and I said before, that it's often going to be subject-verb or verb-subject. Regardless, the subject and the verb are connected. They need to be connected, and that verb is going to be in the second position in the sentence. Excuse me. In all instances, unless it's at the beginning of a sentence because it's a question, for example, or in some case, you might use a modal verb, and then the infinitive goes to the end of the sentence, but nevertheless, the modal verb, the verb, still goes in the second position. So we know that the verb is in the second position, but I think what's important to kind of pinpoint is that that first element doesn't have to just be the subject either. And if there's some other kind of element as the first part of the sentence, it does not mean then that everything is kind of bumped back and then we continue on subject verb, but rather the first element, and that element can be anything, really. That first element takes the first position, the verb then immediately follows in the second position, all the same, and then the subject follows after the verb. Okay? So primarily, yes, verb and subject are connected and will be connected and need to stay connected. But if the subject's not taking the first position because a different element of the sentence is, then the verb is in the second position all the same and the subject follows. And again, you can put things in the first position to emphasize them. That's really what the first position of the sentence is all about, emphasizing things. So for example, in the analyzer, we had various examples of this. For example, im Sommer trage ich, right? So there we decided to emphasize im Sommer, in the summer, I wear, right? We would not say im Sommer ich trage, because the im Sommer is the first position of the sentence. The verb needs to fall in the second position and then the subject. Another example, zu einer Party trage ich. So in that case, those three words, zu einer Party, are the entire first element of the sentence. It's saying, okay, to a party, I wear. Again, it would not be zu einer Party ich trage, because the zu einer Party is the first position, excuse me, is the first element, and the verb has to follow. So zu einer Party trage ich. Another one, for example, would be something like das Wetter ist heute schön. So there, das Wetter, so in that case, although you might want to say das Wetter heute ist schön, right, because the weather today kind of falls together just like it would in English. In that example there, again, that das Wetter has to be the first element, the subject alone, followed by the verb, and then we can modify it accordingly afterwards. So it's just regardless of what takes place in that first element of the sentence, make sure that you kind of sanction it off, follow it with the verb, follow it with the subject, and then continue on your sentence accordingly. But again, it's one of the neat elements of German is that we can emphasize whatever we want to emphasize in the sentence simply by putting it at the beginning of the sentence. That makes it receive a certain emphasis, and then we can continue the sentence differently. So if you're ever looking for ways to make your German more complex, you don't have to resort to trying to find all sorts of fancy vocabulary and try to do things that are too complex. You can simply change the order of your sentences to emphasize different elements, and that will spice them up as well. That was the first one. Excuse me. The second one was about the pronunciation, because again, this was the second opportunity now to record yourself speaking German and get some feedback on that. And again, I figure it's worthwhile to share what I found are kind of like the three most common pronunciation errors, and just reiterate them here as well as another opportunity to kind of catch you, and you can hopefully try to start to think about this when you're speaking German as well. Okay? So the first one is that Z sound, and again, it's a Z that's at the start of a word. So a word like Zeit, or 10, or zu, all those words start with Z, but you can hear that Z is a lot more pronounced in terms of being almost like a TS sound. Set, sane, su. So it really is stronger, it's harder, but it's got to be pronounced that way to sound correct. Okay, so the Z sound is the first one. The second one is a distinction between a word that has EI in it versus IE. And this one, oftentimes I hear some of you mistaking it and saying it the wrong way. And in reality, the easiest convention to learn as to how to pronounce it is that if you see the EI together or the IE together, you always pronounce the second letter and pronounce it like you would in English. So if I see EI together, I pronounce the I. If I see IE together, I pronounce the E. So again, a word like sight, for example, EI, you can hear it there, sight. I'm saying the I sound. Or a word like feel, then IE, again, feel, I pronounce the E sound. So really, if you see those two letters together, just look at the second letter, and that tells you all you need to know. Excuse me, about how to pronounce it. Okay. And the third element then is just the E on the end of words. Again, I'm sure many of you have learned French, probably in high school if you're Canadian. So you're more likely accustomed to the fact that some letters are silent by nature, or in English, there's many cases of an E on the end of a word being silent in nature as well. German is one of those languages where every single part of a word is going to be pronounced. If there's an E on the end of the word, it's not just there for show. The E on the end of the word has to be pronounced as well. So a word like GER, Woche, those E's on the end are there for a reason. We want to make sure we pronounce it with that sound. GER, Woche. Okay? I think that's about it for today then. So again, all the best with the next Analyze due on Tuesday. And we will check in again on Friday. Okay, tschüss.